It's a Armstrong show. It's a Armstrong. It's a Armstrong show. It's a Armstrong. To the best, to the best, to the best. Turn the radio up, he the best, he the best, he the best. You are now listening to the best, to the best, to the best. Turn the radio up, he the best, he the best.
Hello everyone, this is Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Don't curse, speak English.
Armstrong.
Virtuous society.
Armstrong.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong.
Elevate your mind.
Armstrong.
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong. Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned in to the most conservative of our brothers. Armstrong.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Armstrong Williams. Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest commentator, who's with us usually weekly, is joining us in this hour. Well, Logan, the presidential debate is tonight. Rick Santorum has a lot at stake. So does Mitt Romney. What's your prediction on the upcoming prize fight?
Well, you know, I can't make a real prediction on this. Although what I will say is the surprising turn that this primary election has taken is away from the economic issues to the conservative social issues. You know, if you would ask me a month ago what issues bother Americans, what issues were winning issues, I would have, you know, gotten up on my soapbox. As a matter of fact, I did get up on my soapbox and say, it's all about the economics. Screw the social issues. Okay? You know, the issues that Americans are most concerned about, as far as I can see, is unemployment, the deficit, the fact that gas price is nearly $4 going up, and everything that the Obama administration has done is really, you know, impeding the development of natural gas and oil in North America. I look at all those issues and I said, hey, those are the issues that I, as an American, am really concerned about. Okay? Now, I may be a little off base because obviously there are a lot of Americans who feel that some of those social issues are very important too. You know, whether you agree with abortion or not, you know, to some people that's a defining issue. Whether you care about contraception or not, for some people that's a defining issue. I actually think President Obama may have brought the social issues back by bringing out
the Catholic Church and
the Catholic Church. Yeah, you know, and maybe this is just the Democrats' very clever strategy to get the Republicans to take positions which they know will be unpopular with women and act as a diversion on the real economic issues. But I think that unless the Republicans really focus on the economic issues, this is going to be a tough election for the Republicans to win.
You know, some people will tell you that Obama is giving Alaska away. He has been literally, in the minds of some people, doing everything that he can to weaken this country since he took office. He has lowered our defenses along both borders. He has spent our treasurer. He has betrayed our allies and lowered our standard of living. Now he's going even further, according to this author, saying that he's given away parts of our country, not just any part, but valuable islands that would increase our oil production if drilling were allowed on them. And to make matters even worse, the state that he is taking this land away from is Alaska. Logan?
And the state that he's giving it to is Russia. Putin, the former KBG guy.
But help us understand this. Hello, everybody. This is Armstrong Williams. We're live www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. Join us live. Tune into AM 730 WTNT 102.9. What is he doing? Logan.
You know, he's got to be smoking something. Why the United States would give up 7 islands in the Arctic Ocean that have a potential for gas and oil exploration just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I took a look at the map and looked at these islands to see where they were located, and you know, they are in the Arctic Ocean. I'm not an expert in the geology up there and whether there actually are minerals, but I know that where those islands are defines your mineral rights in the Arctic Ocean, and there's a lot of mineral resources, valuable mineral resources in the Arctic Ocean. Now, why we'd give those up just seems crazy to me. And I'd like to know what the quid pro quo is. I haven't heard anything about the quid pro quo. And where's Congress?
Where is Congress?
Why isn't Congress stopping this?
You tell us.
I wish I knew. I just found out about it. I mean, this is one of those things that...
I've been reading about it for the last week, but it made no sense.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Why, I mean, before you know it, I also heard something very interesting, is that he's giving up some rights in, some mineral rights in the Gulf of Mexico to Mexico so that we can share profits with the Mexicans. Now, like I say, I don't know all the details. I don't know whether this makes sense, economic sense or not, but we're giving up oil rights to the Mexicans?
These are really frightening times. What did you think of the president's speech today on the economy and lowering corporate taxes from 35% to 28%, but yet punishing us on dividends when it comes to stocks?
Well, it was actually Geithner, but...
is there a difference in the two? Please. I hope you don't think you're trying to tell us something.
Well, I'm sure Geithner's not talking without Obama's approval on these issues. It seems to me that the really important thing that could be very positive is a recognition that American corporate tax rates at 35% are way out of line with what the rest of the world's corporate tax rates are. And American companies are at a significant disadvantage on these tax rates, given that they're 35%. So lowering it to 28% would be a real boon to American corporations. Now, the devil's in the details, because we don't really know what the details are in terms of this reform. We know that when the smoke clears, the corporate tax is supposed to yield more tax revenue rather than less revenue as a result of this. What deductions they're changing, how they're restructuring it. I've not seen the details. I'm not even sure if they've been put out yet. Now, one thing that has come out is that part of this will include increasing the tax on corporate dividends from 15% to close to 45%. And the way that's going to happen is that they want to eliminate the deduction for taxpayers making over, I believe, $200,000. But they will make those taxpayers pay the highest marginal rate, which they want to raise to 39%.
39%? How do you get that figure?
Well, the president gets it. You eliminate the Bush tax cuts, and it used to be 39% on dividends. So they want to bring it back to 39%. And in addition, there's another, in the Obamacare legislation, there's another tax on investment income of 3.5%. And then there's another 1.5% on the Medicare tax, the new Medicare tax that's being applied to that. So the marginal rate will be close to 44-45% on corporate dividends. Now, that's on top of, if Obama gets his way, a 28%. So you've already paid 28% on your dividend at the corporate level, and then you got to pay another 44%. You know, if I do the arithmetic, you know, I can't count that high. You get, you know, some almost 75% tax, 72% tax on corporate dividends. That's crazy. I mean, what will that do to the stock market? You know, that's going to really kill the stock market for dividend-paying stocks. Because
but none of this takes effect until 2013, right?
Well, none of this takes effect until 2013 at the earliest, and it depends. It's unlikely to get through the Congress by the end of the year. We have an election coming up, so you got to believe that this is an election document meant once again to say, okay, Americans, we're going to make American business more competitive, but the people who are getting the benefits of that through dividends, and you know, who are the shareholders, which, by the way, American adults, 50% of American adults hold stock either directly or indirectly. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to reduce your income by taking the money away from you, the stockholders, and you know, putting a huge tax on you guys. So if you leave the money in the corporation, it's only taxed at 28%. But if you take it out, it's going to be taxed at 72%.
I've always been hopeful that the president, and especially people that he's surrounding himself would eventually understand economics 101, that 1 + 1 is going to always equals 2. But it seems as though they're getting farther and further away from that great concept, Logan.
Well, the problem is that they understand economics. I don't think the problem is that they don't understand economics. I think the problem is they don't care about economics. I'm going to assume that the president knows that this is harmful, but he's so interested in redistributing income.
Let's talk about redistributing wealth when we return. Logan Delaney, www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. We'll be back, AM 730, WTNT, 102.9 FM.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Logan, let's talk about the class warfare, the haves versus the have-nots. And what about Obama? Not only slashed corporate tax breaks and rates.
What did he do, Armstrong?
He slashed corporate tax breaks and rates. He did a lot of slashing of the corporate tax breaks for the oil companies and the gas companies.
Yep.
And it's going to reform. It's going to slash. We talked about the main corporate tax, but while the president may be in sync with Republicans in terms of wanting to lower the top rate, Republicans want to lower the corporate rate even further to 25%.
Right. That's correct.
But they can come together on that issue. But
yeah, I think the difference between 25 and 28% is something that will be negotiated out.
But also these U.S. companies with foreign subsidiaries may reduce their federal tax bill in a variety of ways, including by deferring the federal tax they owe on their foreign-made profits until they bring that money back to our country.
Right, that's right.
But he wants to tax these oil companies and gas companies out of the universe.
Well, it's interesting. The president can tax the oil companies and the gas companies more, and I don't know what his particular proposal is on adding additional taxes. But while you may or may not like the gas and the oil companies, the fact is when you increase their cost, which you do when you increase their taxes, they pass that on to the consumer. I mean, all you have to do is look at what's happened to the gas price in the last year. It's up about $1. There are plenty of places they're paying close to $4 a gallon for regular gas in the United States right now. I know down here in Florida, I've seen a 4 as the first number at some gas stations. That's here in Florida. We usually have cheaper gas. You go up to New York, and it's 4 and a lot of change, and they say it's going one way. And what does the president do? Okay, the president threatens to increase the corporate tax on oil and gas companies. Okay, but then he gives away these islands where there's potential for oil and gas resources in Alaska. What else does he do? He eliminates the pipeline that's coming from Canada that can get us some cheap shale oil coming down to the United States. And after the oil spill, for basically 2 years, they stopped drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, and all the rigs go away. And how are you going to get them back? You're going to get them back by increasing the tax on them?
He doesn't think that far in advance, Logan. You're giving him too much credit.
Well, all I'm saying is that, the president has to look at strategically what's happening in the world, and the fact is that the more he shuts down and makes it difficult for us to get oil and gas here in this country, what we end up doing for every dollar a barrel that we pay more for gas, about 60% of that goes to our enemies in the Far East, or rather in the Middle East. Okay, just think about that.
Yeah, that's
think of all that. Those people, in the Middle East are pumping oil. They're happy to see the price go up, and that's like a huge tax on Americans that we're paying to these people in the Middle East, a lot of whom are our enemies.
But they don't think about that, Logan. They're leaving that problem to someone else.
Well, I hope the American people think about it as we watch the United States government basically impose a huge oil tax on the United States, which goes to our enemies that we're fighting in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. I mean, there's a lot of that oil money going to those people. So, just think about that when you walk into the voting booth.
What are average Americans who are struggling, desperately trying to return to their way of life? What are they to do in the process? What should they look for in tonight's presidential debate? What would you want to hear?
Well, the thing that I would most want to hear as a working American, okay, is that the economy is coming back. Don't tell me, we're growing at 1 or 2%. Don't tell me that, unemployment's 8.5%. It's better than it was at 9%. Okay? I want to know, what are we going to do to bring and to get the economy going? And, there are a couple of things that we have to do to get this economy going. One is we're not going to get it going by increasing taxes. And yet I hear the president basically talking about increasing taxation. He's letting the Bush tax cuts expire on the wealthy. There is a 3.5% tax that's going to be imposed by Obamacare. There's an additional 1.5% tax that's being promoted on investment income from Social Security, Medicare. You even look at nominally where he said he's going to reduce the tax rate on corporations, but he's going to eliminate a lot of the deductions so that the net result will be a slight increase in the taxes on corporations. Give me a break. The last thing you want to do in a difficult economy is to raise taxes. That takes money out of the business community, out of the consumption community, where people are very careful about how they spend money, and it gives it to the government, where they're spending other people's money. Now, we all know that you, as a taxpayer, are much more careful when you spend $100. But when a bureaucrat spends it, he's not very careful. It's somebody else's money. They can always raise the taxes or borrow more money.
How long will this bailout for Greeks last? Has it saved the euro, and what does it spell for Spain, Italy, and those other countries in Europe on the brink?
Well, I think the hard part on the Greek bailout that is whether it's going to work. I mean, nobody really knows whether this bailout's going to work. It's the second bailout in the last couple of years. Are they going to need another bailout? And one of the things that's very interesting is that the Greek people have not really accepted the fact that they have to sacrifice in order to get this bailout. The Europeans made a deal with both of the major parties in Greece, which basically said that they have to have some austerity measures. And yet the politicians there have not been able to get the Greek people to accept that. Now, this is going to be a very, very tough situation for Greece, because the EU community is basically saying that it doesn't really matter what the Greek people think. We're imposing a fiscal discipline on the Greeks. Okay, so even if the Greek people don't want it, we're going to impose it. The problem with that is the Greek people are out there rioting, and it can't be a stable situation.
It also appears it also appears that many Greeks are going to end up having to pay for their own job.
Look, the thing that Greece needs is an economic environment where they can create jobs. They have very high levels of unemployment, especially among young people. So they need an environment that's going to create jobs, not kill jobs. There are people who argue, who know a lot more about the situation in Greece and this deal that they cut over there than I do, who say that this is not going to create jobs. You need to make their economy more flexible. The Greeks should be looking for a way to effectively devalue, reduce their cost, and their prices. Now, in the old regime where you had the Greek drachma, they would just devalue the drachma, and they would automatically reduce everybody's wage and the cost of all the goods and services coming out of Greece relative to the rest of the European community. But since they're in the Eurozone, they can't take that drastic action. So they do these bailouts. And the bailouts, query whether they're going to work. We're in uncharted territory.
What's the best case scenario for them, Logan?
The best case scenario, as I see it, is that this will work for a couple of years, and then we're just kicking the can down the road, and you're going to have to deal with the fundamental problems in Greece.
Logan, it is always a pleasure speaking to you on this Armstrong Williams show on Nation's Capital, AMW TNT 730 and 102.9 FM. Your final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts are, Armstrong, everything is ultimately in our hands as the American people. We all have votes. If we want our economy to get strong, we really have to look at what the candidates are saying and figure out, okay, who's going to make this happen? Who's going to strengthen our country economically?
We the people.
We the people.
We the people, brother. Logan, thank you so much for joining us.
Good
All
talking
the
to you,
best.
Armstrong.
Good talking to you. When we come back, a provocative discussion with Dr. Cass Iingram. The new book examines the question, who is tampering with the 2012 U.S. presidential election process and why? And I don't know if you heard the latest, the National Enquirer has the open coffin and final photo of Whitney Houston at the funeral home, and the family is not coming. And I'm sure it was an inside job. They were paid a lot of money. Somebody was in on it. They were supposed to turn their heads. They know exactly what they're doing. Somebody's making money. Listen, it's just the way it works. Is it sad? It's a violation if they allow the family to stream and broadcast the final ceremony of their daughter. Listen, look, it's a business, and people just forget this. This is just a business. She's dead. Taking a photo is not going to change that. When we come back, we're going to talk about why in a new book, who's tampered with the 2012 U.S. presidential election. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FILA, does what others don't. FILA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfila.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfila.com.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Cass Iingram is joining us, who has this incredible book out which examines the question on who is tampering with the 2012 U.S. presidential election process and why. If you've been paying attention to the Republican primaries, you may have noticed some head-scratching anomalies. Nice word for Freud, some would say. Election officials losing certain groups of ballots. No state IDs needed to cast ballot. Recently deceased citizens able to interpose and vote. Ballot stuffing, single voters submitting multiple ballots. Confusing or incorrect instructions issued by election officials which influence voting tallies. Secretive vote tallies done behind closed doors with observers banned. Winners and orders of runners-up chosen by party officials in backroom deals. Media blackout of the status and activity of certain popular candidates as though they were not viable choices for the office of president. Long-time election observers are commenting the 2012 election season contains the most numerous and glaring examples of election fraud in memory, say Dr. Cass Iingram, author of the forthcoming new book, Ray. Dr. Iingram, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's an absolute pleasure. How you doing?
Fine. This is just devastating, disheartening, and just absolutely corrupt.
Yeah, it's super corrupt, and it's actually like psychotic. I mean, here, we got to go send monitors to Egypt, or, they're going to have an election. We better watch them over there in India or Pakistan. What are we talking about? I mean, this is an absolute cacophony of total corruption, and, I mean, the whole thing is coming unglued at the seams. It started in Iowa, and then New Hampshire collapsed, and Maine completely came unwound, and nobody's talking about South Carolina. I have breaking news. Your show will be the first to announce it. I mean, it is... you can't believe it.
So what happened in South Carolina?
South Carolina was only 100% Ivotronic ES&S electronic machines.
Explain this to our listening audience.
All right. Well, in Canada, they have a plexiglass or a see-through box. You take a paper ballot, you write your candidate, and you drop it through the box. It's glass so that the whole thing is transparent. No stuffing, no taking anything out. We might have paper ballots here and there, but we mostly have electronic machines. Explain it. Okay, so you push a button, and that's it. No paper receipt. You get a receipt when you go to your ATM, and even when you go through a miserable toll, you can push on a button and get a receipt. But when you take a toll of your most important way to influence our world, you get nothing in return. It's rampant rigging potential. And so these machines are hackable. They can be hacked on purpose by the companies themselves, pre-hacked. They can send agents provocateur into the field. It could be done by another person through cell phones and through a little computer that could be standing 100 feet away or 200 feet away,
But you know what? Yeah. In your research in this book, when you talk about no IDs needed to cast ballots being lost, secretive vote tallies done behind closed doors, I mean, talk about this.
Okay, I'll start with South Carolina.
And is this anything new? Is it as old as elections that have been held in this country?
It's old. It goes back to John D. Rockefeller when he wanted everything under his control, and he gave big payola to the senators to establish machine elections. Instead of a ballot box and a little booth where you put your piece of paper, he started machine-based election rigging. And the Women's Legion of Voters and all that, this was all together putting the candidates of choice, not the people's choice, in power. But now, here, South Carolina, the most glaring example of electioneering. What happened there was that it has been discovered by South Carolina private investigators, statisticians, mathematicians, and engineers on the ground, grassroots people, that what they did was they put a 5% chip or a patch into the machines, and they stole 5% of all the votes in the large precincts, but left this. Here's where the crooksters screwed up. They did a stupid thing. They left all the small precincts alone, under 280 voters. I guess they're afraid that maybe somebody in the grassroots would say, well, wait a minute, it doesn't make any sense. Most of us voted for candidate B, and there's not, I know 20 of my family members that voted for B. It couldn't be 19. So they left the 250 people voter areas alone, and they rigged the 800 voters, the 700 voter areas, 1,000 voter areas, 5% switch for the Goldman Sachs candidate, might I say. The beneficiary, Mitt Romney. Isn't that interesting?
And he still lost.
He still lost too. And the detraction or the negative was on Dr. Paul. And this is a very interesting thing. In this specific election, the two that they looked at was they didn't want Paul to come in like a strong second.
Wow.
So they took his money, his vote, and stuffed it over to Romney. And nobody will deny it because they did it.
Why wouldn't Ron Paul say something?
I don't know. I suspect if he mentions voter fraud without having all the data in his hands, the mass media will drag him out on that, and he won't continue with I guess what he's doing is he's talking about his message, liberty, and why should we have all our money go to the IRS? Whatever his platform is, the Fed. I imagine it would be difficult unless you had, like me, I've written a whole book, right? I've studied this for 6 years, so now I can come out with this a little more aggressively. But I think he has mentioned shenanigans and monkey business. So, I don't know, maybe they will be mentioning more of it. But one thing he did do, he would not let go of Maine. He did not concede Maine to Romney. Isn't that interesting?
So you were not surprised when Rick Santorum finally was declared the winner of Iowa.
Well, I'm not surprised because I know Edward L. True. I talked to him. I'm from Iowa, and he was relentless. He did an affidavit. Look, one honest guy, who counted the vote, brought down the GOP in Iowa. Matt Strawn resigned, didn't he? Edward L. True in Moulton, Iowa, said, "No, wait a minute." He didn't have to say anything because it wasn't to his advantage. He was a Ron Paul voter. He said, "No, we did not have 22 Romney votes here. We had 2. And that's more common than you might know, but he's got Goldman Sachs, and all the big banksters and Credit Suisse and all that. And so I'm testifying. I have a photograph with my iPhone, and the whole thing came unglued. Other people reported irregularities. Others reported that I'm not picking on Mr. Romney, I was just going through the whole thing, that he actually took, believe it or not, voters, brought them from out of state, there are reports on this, and put them on the front row to stuff ballots. And that's that ballot stuffing I was talking to you about. When there's no ID required, you bring in your buddies, or you bring in extra people, and, no ID, right? They could even be from out of state.
You're convincing us that these elections are just so corrupt, and everyone engages in it.
Everybody does. The Democrats, the Republicans, it doesn't matter. It's all the same.
What percentage of it? Are you saying that 90% what they vote, that's honest, that's reflective of the will of the people? How much of it would you say that people get screwed when they vote?
We're getting screwed 100% of the time.
100%?
Yeah, we're getting screwed 100% of the time because there's several ways of electioneering. There's the media, if they want to block somebody out, like they do with Dr. Paul by putting him on the edge of the debate, giving him 1/10 the time or 1/5 the time.
And you think this is intentional?
Oh yeah, of course.
Are they in collusion?
Well, they would be in collusion, wouldn't they? Because what is it? It's the military-industrial complex Eisenhower mentioned. It's the Raytheons, the 3D imaging people, the the people that are behind General Dynamics. This is not a good scene, right, to have a people's presidency, no more war, no more monkey business. It's the Israel, of course, you know that situation with Haim Saban and Sheldon Adelson. It's quite obvious, isn't it? Foster Friess, the Israeli billionaires, saying, no, we want somebody for Israel. We don't care. So there's all of this. I mean, there is some infighting, but basically there is some collusion, isn't there? And so the reason I say 100% is this. In 2000, who do you think won the popular vote? Some guy by the name of Al Gore. In 2004, who won the popular vote? Some guy by the name of John Kerry. I'm not saying there'd be any difference between him and Bush, but there is absolutely no doubt about it. George Bush, Karl Rove, and team, and whoever their backers are, went into a fast and furious vote-rigging machine with Blackwell in Idaho and Ohio, and Susan Harris down in Florida, and they got it done. They rigged the votes electronically, primarily.
No different than Kennedy and Nixon in Chicago.
Same thing. And I live in Chicago. How did Rahm Emanuel? There wasn't even anything. How did he get in here? He doesn't even live here. So, look. Here's the deal. When they did that in the past, what they did was, if the vote count didn't go in their favor, they took and put the votes in an off-site server. And that server was set up by part of the regime. In this case, it was Mike Connell. I think you remember the story. He was the programmer for the Bush family for 15 years. He set the thing up. He gave a 5% patch away from Kerry to Bush, and Bush theoretically won Ohio. What happened to Mike Connell when people in Ohio said we want honest? Remember that?
This is too much. Listen, our guest, a provocative guest, rigged. His new book examines the question, who has tampered with the 2012 U.S. presidential election process and why? None other than Dr. Cass Iingram. We'll be back. We're streaming live, www.livestream.com.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Dr. Cass Iingram, tell our audience a little about yourself. What sets you up as a credible person to write this? Talk about your research and how you reached these conclusions.
Yeah, I've written 30 books now and quite a few op-eds at this point, but what happened to me was that as a physician, I noticed that there was a bias against natural medicine and that we couldn't get any label claims on herbs and things that have been used for thousands of years. Raw milk you can't get. You can't get the genetically engineered food. You can't label it in this country. And as I dug deeper, seeing that Europe has banned genetically engineered food, that Hungary has made it a felony to grow it, and that I can buy raw milk when I'm in London, what's happening here? As I started digging further, I started to find that the political process was not controlled by voting, but by pre-planned candidates, which led to vote rigging. It led to manipulation of machines. The patches, I started to see the videos on the internet of the proven how Diebold is altered by little cards that you insert. It led me to espionage, intrigue, I hate to say it, pedophilia, child abuse rings, Mel Sembler, for example, and it even led me to murder. Investigator Lemmy was, who was on the verge, he said, of breaking the 2000, 2004 era, 2000 especially, Bush elections, was found dead in a bathtub in Valdosta, Georgia. He was from the FDOT, the Florida Department of Transportation. He was investigating voter fraud. So, and then Mike Connell, we were talking about him. Mike Connell, for 15 years, the programmer for the Bush family, or for Mr. George Bush, Enrove, he ends up being subpoenaed and deposed. And he talks about what's going on. He ends up getting blown up in his plane.
What?
Yes. Dead in a doornail. His private plane blew up. And that was in the midst of him being deposed and investigated for the off-site rigging for the for the vote in Ohio, in the swing state. So I decided, well, it's got to get into a book. So Rigged is coming out in a couple of weeks. I'll put up an online version, hopefully within the month. I know it's a couple months away, probably the hard version. And it exposes every kind of a chicanery and wicked deed you can imagine. But you were asking about secret deals. You know that Dee Benke, going back to Iowa now, Dee Benke said this, the Fox News hack and the GOP associate. She said there is no, and we're going back to Ron Paul, there is no way we're going to let Ron Paul win Iowa. She said it on radio. What we're going to do, we're going to take blocks of voters and we're going to sit them in the big caucuses. And then when we see which way the room is moving, is it moving towards Romney? Is it moving towards Santorum? Is it moving towards Paul? Well, if Romney's doing pretty good, we'll stack him up with him. But if the room's moving towards Santorum so we can push Paul down, we'll put him over with him. She said it. I mean... And
they're bold. These people are bold.
I know. And you see Stephanopoulos, we're going to talk about Paul, because all the rigging right now is going against Paul and to a lesser degree Santorum. There was some rigging against him in Maine, but most of it is rigged against Paul, 90%. And
listen, and you're telling me that both sides, the left and right, allows this?
Well, they both do it. And, I mean, like when Kerry was forced to concede, he said, oh, not a big deal. We're all one. We're all in that, what's the name of that, Scullin, whatever it is. And Gore, I think, was a little more perturbed. But, yeah, the left and the right. In the middle are people who say, look, we don't care who wins. We just want it to be honest. If it's Dr. Paul, fine. If it's Santorum, fine. But at least it should be whoever voted. All those votes are counted. You know what? It's a felony third-degree offense to enfranchise one vote. Jail time, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, let me ask you, are there any honest brokers? Are there places you can point to where there's not corruption? Is there anything that can give hope to the American voter who actually think they have an honest system and they're electing these candidates, and you're telling us that this system is rigged?
Yeah, but it's in the past. In 1946, there was an honest broker. It was called the Battle of Athens. We've had nothing but trash since. In the Battle of Athens, the troops came back, and it's happening now. You saw the march in D.C., and they said, everything you had us fight for, we don't even have in McKinnon County. It's corrupt, it's rotten, the jobs aren't any good, and there's corruption at the sheriff's office. So they steal the vote, and the soldiers went and manned the poll booths. That's all they did. No guns, no knives, no bayonets. What happened? The sheriff brought in 200 imported thugs and beat the soldiers up. 1946. Guns and ammo. It's online. You'll find it somewhere. Battle of Athens. What happened? They said, we're all bruised up, but let's go into the armory. They pried open the lock and got carbines. They went over and surrounded the sheriff's office in McKinnon County, and the sheriff wouldn't come out. He shot a couple of the soldiers. So they tossed a stick of dynamite onto the porch, and like Mayberry RFD and Barney Fife, he comes out waving a white flag, and they chased him out of town. Nobody was killed. And for 10 years in this country, when those soldiers watched that vote, we had honest brokers, and ever since that, we've gotten nothing. And you know from the Kennedy years and the Nixon years, all of it, ever since, not a single honest broker in the game.
You know, I'm just shocked that they're just so flagrant with it.
Well, you know, that I guess they've been getting away with it for 5 decades, but now it's coming out, isn't it? I mean, the GOP in Iowa went down. That huckster Webster, Charlie Webster, everything comes out of his mouth other than saliva is a lie. He's got to go. They did a vote of no confidence. They tried to sack him over in Maine. He's going to go. And you know, and now when this thing in South Carolina gets put out by more researchers saying, yeah, Iingram's right. They put a 5% patch. The South Carolina guys are right. You know, some of these people are probably being threatened with their lives. Everything.
So what about the actual presidential election?
Well, that's where they really hit. See, okay, in the once you've got your 2 nominees, there are power brokers who will decide which they favor, but they're going to be concerned about the popular vote. This is sick, isn't it? So they've got some backup systems. They've got some big servers. They've got some disenfranchisement. They've got a few dead bodies. Well, the bodies won't come, but the dead rolls will. They rig it like mad, and here's what they do. They select the biggest precincts in the swing states, in Florida, in Ohio, in Georgia, and they electronically alter the vote. Here's why. As we found out in South Carolina, if they rigged it in the small precincts, somebody might find out. But when you rig it for like 180,000, 200,000, 60,000, 40,000, who's going to interview those people? That's where they swing. That's where they pull the largesse of the vote away from the candidate they don't want. They don't totally trust. They've got one person that they'll favor, and that's who they'll put in office, not elect. So I don't want to disenfranchise the voters. We should vote, but we should do the advice in my book, which is to watch the vote.
So listen, let me ask you. So who has the best machine to steal the elections? The GOP nominee or the sitting president?
Well, the sitting president has the best machine because generally he has the biggest amount of money. He has the biggest favor, usually with the media. Usually, he has a regime already established, and usually. What goes on there is they've got a whole team of people that plan for second and tertiary plans.
You know,
and that's what the Bushes did.
You know, many people were stunned that Bush won his second term after the media were against him and said it was over. He lost Virginia. He's losing North Carolina. They were all wrong.
And then he lost the popular vote and he lost the electoral potential. But what they did was they the Supreme Court did that illegal act. And they covered up the vote fraud.
Don't say that was an illegal act. Come on, that's not fair. You're crossing the line now. No, come on. Listen, how can someone get a copy of your book?
The rigged you have to go to healthfreedom2012.com, my website, and drop me an email. Rigged. Drop me an email or send an email to, or call this number, 1-800-295-3737, and just leave your name and say, hey, I want a copy. Call me when it's ready. It's not ready yet.
You're terrific.
It's done. It's got to be printed. Yeah.
You're a terrific guest. The book is wonderful. Just a terrific guest. Very insightful, enlightening, educational. So these debates are meaningful that we're listening to.
Well, the debates are meaningless because if they don't want the candidate, well, the debate could influence people to say, you know, I like this guy, I'm going to vote. Here, look, everything could be meaningful. There's two ways to defeat this. One is to have a landslide of people, monstrous numbers of people that say, you know what, I'm sick of this, I like this guy, and 60-70% of the vote is very difficult to rig. The second way is, so anything could be meaningful if enough of us get out and protest, is to watch the vote. And here's the secret, people. Find the biggest precincts and take 2 or 3 people and do an exit poll. That will throw such fear up the spines of the regime that they're going to go, how are we going to rig this one now?
Dr. Cass Iingram, thank you for joining us. His book.
You're welcome, my friend.
Tampering with the 2012
God bless you, Ben.
And God bless you. And take care, everybody, from Armstrong Williams to AM 730
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Good God! I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food! Henry Soul Food! No, we need it! Soul Food! Henry Soul Food! No, I like it! Soul Food! Henry Soul Food! No, we need it! Soul Food! Henry Soul Food! Hit me! Home
of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry's soul food.
What we need.
Soul food. Henry's soul food.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up, hey. Armstrong, get on the right side. Armstrong,
elevate your mind.
Armstrong,
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong, yo man, it's your boy KO. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers.